Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the Hearts Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today, listeners, I'm excited to say I've got Adriane Magidson. I know it's a bit of a mouthful to pronounce. Hopefully I pronounced that right, Adriane. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
So Adriane is a transformational relationship coach. And today we're going to be talking about what are my hidden relationship blocks. Now, I always find this quite an intriguing topic to talk about because sometimes we don't know what we don't know, do we, Adriane?
Absolutely.
Until we do.
Until we do, exactly.
And hopefully today, that's what we're here for. Adriane's a real great expert at this topic, and she'll be lifting the lid on props, things that you didn't know. So, Adriane, when we're talking about what are my hidden relationship blocks, what specifically do you mean by that?
Well, my full belief is that our subconscious mind is connected to our energy as well as connected to our emotions. So all three sort of connected in together. And what happens is sometimes, even though we might have done some work and gone through and worked through our mindset, we still are holding on to that energy within our internal body. And so what happens is sometimes we don't know that that's still there. We don't know what the residuals are. We don't know if there's something else, and we can't see it ourselves. And we don't even know where to go or who to ask or what we need in order to move forward.
That's a great explanation, because sometimes we can really feel we've done a hell of a lot of work on ourselves, but we're still not getting the results that we hoped. And I think this is exactly the thing we're talking about in terms of our relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we're stuck in this pattern that over and over and over again, that we just we don't know what's happening. We don't know, how do I get out of this? How do I see even what the roadblocks are? I don't understand why this is still happening when I've done this, I've done that. And, but I'm here to say that it all has to do with energy. You don't need to do more fixing. You don't need to do more of the mindset work. Really, it's all just your energy.
Absolutely. So what could be an example of maybe, either through giving an example of a transformation that you went through yourself or with a client as to what their energy was before you worked on it, or you worked on it with a prospective client, compared to what they then did, which then changed the outcome?
Right. So I worked with somebody, and she had a strong layer of no. I don't want relationships. I don't want to be in them. I don't want to have anything to do with them, even though she really, really felt strongly that she wanted to be one and that she had a desire for a relationship. But there was still this layer of I'm not doing it. I don't want it. And a lot of resistance there as to how to move forward to get there. And she tried other traditional therapies and other spiritual modalities and things to move forward, and nothing seemed to be working. And then after we worked together, she felt like she was totally open to relationships. She felt like she could move forward. When she would talk to people, in her real life, it would have a different effect. She was able to just be more open with her family relationships too. It wasn't just about romantic relationships, but for the most part, that was the biggest win, I think, that she felt that she walked away with.
Excellent. I think energy's not really spoke about in terms of, obviously, I think for most of us, our parents weren't aware of how energy plays an important part in relationships. And certainly we're not taught about it in schools, or hardly anything about relationships, let alone how the energy is playing out. So can you talk to us a bit about the differences between masculine and feminine energy, and how you view energy overall in terms of the dynamics and how it's played out between partners in relationships?
Yeah, so basically, there is a polarity there. And even though there isn't necessarily a set rule of these dynamics belong to feminine and these dynamics belong to masculine, it's about what we internally, where we draw our energy from. This is what I believe is where we draw our energy from. If we are indeed drawing our energy from, and a lot of people do this and they're not aware that they're doing this, but I know that I did, is that I was drawing my energy from an area that you would technically consider masculine. It was very defensive driven. It was very control driven. It was very much, I guess you could say, in a way, it was just sort of, I wanted to get what I wanted. And I'm not saying that that's everybody or that that's what the masculine energy is about, but that was how it manifested for myself. I'm just talking about myself here. But I did that because I was protecting myself and protecting my emotions, because that's what I felt like I needed to do based off of what was happening or what had happened or experiences. I felt like I needed to protect myself, but that was just in an energy there, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to push myself forward. I didn't know what to do or how to open that up without feeling like I was going to just lose control. And so what I did was I started to work with somebody, and basically that we opened up the sacral chakra. We opened up, which is sort of technically the feminine chakra, where there's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of, it was just a lot of emotions and feelings, things that people sometimes can be afraid to broach because there's something there. And that's basically what I do, is I work with people so that we can rewrite those stories that you're telling yourself, that you might not know that you're telling yourself, that you are looking to, well, maybe you might not be looking to, but you might be caught in, that you might be stuck in. And that's what, so I can basically tell you where that's located, with the work that I do. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of dynamic out there. There's a lot of feeling like there needs to be protection of yourself, of your emotions, and wherever that's coming from, it can be rewritten. There's nothing set in stone. There's nothing there that says that that your energy has to be one way, or that the way that you present yourself has to be one way, or the way that you feel has to be one way. It all can change. Everything is changeable, especially when you're talking about energy.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that. So the way I've always understood it for myself, and the way I've sort of rationalized this, is that we all have masculine and feminine energy within us, regardless of what sex we are. And it's just that we also within that have one natural core energy, which is usually the same as our gender or sex, but not always. You know, as is the case when you look at same-sex relationships, for example. It's not always the case that you might be a woman, but you might have more dominant natural masculine core energy, for example.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. But I do think, sorry to interrupt
you. Yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. You're absolutely right, 100%, and I absolutely agree with you. I do believe that that's the case too. I guess what I was getting at was that if it's out of balance, if you're not fully in alignment, if you're out of balance with your own natural tendency or your own natural core, if you're out of balance there, then that's what has a tendency to, I guess you could say, manifest.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that. I also believe that there is healthy feminine and unhealthy feminine energy, and the same with masculinity. There's healthy masculinity and unhealthy masculinity within our energy, so that we can tap into. And quite often, if we have, as women, been abused or been traumatized, especially at the hands of men in our past, we then do more step into and draw on our masculine energy, and we don't know that we're actually living in that quite a lot of the time, until we get educated about it and realize that actually it's probably repelling the very type of man we'd love to have in a relationship.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what I believe in. 100% agree. Absolutely.
And also, I suppose within that is the dynamic of sometimes needing to be in masculine energy. I'm not saying that if you are in that masculine energy that it's wrong, but sometimes it is good if we default into it to protect ourselves if we're in a dangerous situation, or if we're playing sports, because competitiveness is more a masculine energy thing, or you know, if we're in a workplace situation and we need to do, you know, exude authority, then it can be good for us to be in our masculine energy. But quite often in our intimate relationships, if your natural core energy is a feminine energy, then we need to be able to take the trousers off and give him his balls back, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. I think we need to be able to switch in between the two more readily. You know, it's seems unfair to ask, but it's being able to switch between the if you are more feminine at your core to between the feminine and between the masculine. We need to be able to have that alignment so that we can do that. If we don't have that alignment and we are in a distorted masculine or distorted feminine energy, we can't do that. It's not, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to want to soften, to want to be in that emotional energy.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier about chakras. Just explain to audience members what you mean by chakras. I understand what that is, but you know, you linked it to energy in the body. So would you explain a little bit about that for us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So within our energy and above us and below us as well, within the energy around us, we have certain chakra points, which are internal energy points. There are 7 main ones within our body. We do have other ones throughout the body and again above us and below us, but basically they're energy points and they represent different things and they manifest in different ways. If they are out of alignment or they are blocked or they don't necessarily have to be blocked. They can just be slow moving. There can be something there, but essentially it's energy. And so that energy is affected by things that we in our minds in our subconscious minds have created as a pattern or as a program, and that affects our energy in itself. Now, if we just release the mindset and we change the mindset, it doesn't necessarily always translate to changing within the body or within the energy. And these chakra points, like I said, with the sacral chakra has a lot to do with emotions. The solar plexus has a lot to do with self-worth. The heart chakra has to do with love and openness. The throat chakra with communication. The third eye with being able to, it's primarily, I want to say, it's spiritual openness, and then your crown that has also to do with the connection to the divine. And then of course your root chakra, which has to do with you and your grounding and your attachment to the earth. But they all have different meanings and they all show up in different ways. So so I basically walk people through what it is that might be there. But intuitively, I just I can tell where that block is, that energy block, and what patterns are coming up for people.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to what you're saying because I love to talk about how energy impacts relationships because it's not taught, as I said, readily within our own sort of school systems, and I believe, you know, that's why quite often people do unintentionally enter into unhealthy relationships because they've got this lack of awareness as to what's actually playing out energetically between themselves and any prospective partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it affects your openness. It affects how you approach people. It's not just or anybody. You know, it affects all of that. It's not just necessarily playing out the dynamic within the relationship as far as triggers and things like that. It is also about how you approach it and how your aura, I guess you could say, is manifested in the world.
So if somebody isn't consciously aware of what masculine energy traits they might be exuding, just explain what that might look like if somebody is a woman who's naturally has natural core feminine energy, but is actually contradictorily exuding masculine energy out into the world, and therefore either getting into relationships which have got quite confrontational, or attracting relationships where they're not really attracted to the guy because he's stepping more into his feminine energy.
I believe that it has a lot to do with control and surrender. So being able to trust and lean back and say, I mean, I guess lean back's sort of the wrong word, but being able to trust and be able to say, this person can lead me. This person, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't lead yourself, you should, but you can say, you know, this person is there if you want that to lead me, and it's not necessarily about control, but it's about, it is about letting go and surrendering and trusting. And I feel like that's the most important aspect of it. So the masculine energy sort of traits would be feeling like you need to control the whole thing, feeling like you're not getting sort of what you need, and you feel like you need to do all the things, you need to make the plans, you need to make sure that things are buttoned up and paid for and done all these things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your own money, or that you shouldn't have your own or you shouldn't do things on your own. You absolutely should. But if there's certain aspects to things that you want, let's just say you're feminine energy, you're feminine at your core, and you're exuding these masculine traits, and that's what you want. You want somebody to come and take care of those things. Then that energy, you sort of need to let that go. And sometimes it's hard to let that go. It's hard to see what it is, and it's hard to let it go, because what if? There's a lot of what if involved in that energy. If that makes sense.
It does make sense, because I think, for most of us that are, and I've been there in living in that masculine energy, and wasn't even aware that I was until I did the work and obviously got the awareness, and realized that, it was off-putting to the very guys that I wanted to attract, because like I mentioned before, if you're standing in masculine energy and you're in a room with a masculine man who you're attracted to, he's also going to feel there's a masculine energy in the room, not necessarily knowing it consciously what that actually means, but it is going to act like a bit of a repellent, because he's either going to feel like, okay, there's a conflict here, and it's going to be like stags butting heads, because he can pick up on that natural challenging masculine energy that's in the room, that's exuded from yourself. Or he's going to pick up on, if you change that energy and soften and surrender to being your more natural feminine self, he'll actually pick up on that as well, and think, actually, there's something very endearing and lovely about the energy that this woman's giving off.
Absolutely. And I do think it's not always conducive to long-term or longevity of a relationship, because it's hard to, because generally what happens is men in general, they'll want to one up. So, if you're trying to control it, then they feel like, well, I can't necessarily win here. Masculine energy by default wants to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been in a situation where I'm the one that's exuding a lot of masculine energy and repelling or getting into conflict with guys that are equally, wanting to be the masculine in the relationship, and feeling confronted and intimidated. And on the other side as well, where it's caused my partner to be more and tap in more to his feminine, and then I've become unattracted to that, because I've not realized that I've become the more dominant masculine energy in the relationship, and he's stepped more into that softer feminine energy, and that's not attractive to a woman, is it?
Right. So, and also, I know for me, I had sort of a series of roller coaster short-term relationships, and that's what sort of propelled me into figuring out what it was, figuring out what it is that I was the common denominator, and that I needed to move forward, and how was I going to do that. And I think that was the biggest roadblock for myself, was not knowing. I just didn't know, and I wanted to know, and I wished that there was somebody out there who could just pinpoint it and say, this is what it is, and we're gonna work on it, and it's, instead of feeling like I needed to be fixed, instead of feeling like it was never going to happen for me, that a long-term relationship was never going to happen for me, or that I wasn't open to it, or that, I would substitute other things for it, like shopping or whatever it was, and I just felt like I needed to figure it out. And once I figured it out, then I sort of came into my own authentic self, and to my gifts, and to the things that I know that I feel like I wish I had to show, for somebody to show me what was happening.
So what would you say changed within you? I mean, how did things look differently for you once you were educated around energy work? How did that change your behaviors? How did that change your thinking? And how did it actually change maybe the way you physically looked, or what you particularly wore, for example?
Yeah, I think I got more comfortable within myself, that's for sure. I felt like I didn't feel like I needed to purchase things that I was never going to wear. I didn't feel like I needed to that I needed to keep up. I didn't feel like that anymore. I didn't feel like I needed to, oh well, this person is this and that person is that, or looking at, all the things that are out there. I came into my own self. I came into to who I am authentically. And I carried myself differently. I carry myself differently now, and I can feel it and I can tell. And it's not just about how other people react, but it's just how I is my outlook and how I see the world when I'm out and about traveling around. And I think also the biggest thing that changed for me was my ability to flip back and forth between the masculine and the feminine, and being able to balance that and to have that polarization there. I think that was a very big thing. And I also think another really big thing was that I'm okay being by myself also sometimes. For a long time I wasn't okay with that. It was just that there was so much noise that I felt like, I need to be doing all the time, and moving all the time and going places, and otherwise I'm not being productive. There's a part of me that felt like if I'm in my feminine energy, or that who I am as a, at my core is feminine, if I'm in that feminine energy, then that means that I'm not worthy or productive.
Interesting, isn't it, how we've sort of been brought up, I suppose, on the back of women's liberation almost, to be more masculine, because from that point, women got equal pay, equal rights, and were more prone to wanting to have and be productive in the workplace and have higher positions professionally. And we're more or less educated to be more masculine to actually achieve those sorts of things, when actually that's not what equality is. And equality isn't trying to be the same as men. It's just about being given the same wages and opportunities, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I do feel like that's a collective wound. Absolutely. And I feel like the pendulum swung all the way in the other direction, and now it's swinging back a little bit further, but sometime we're going to find a balance, and we're going to be able to get there. And I think a lot of what people have to accept is that, I know for myself, is that it's okay, that there's nothing wrong, that it's just, all it is energy. And if we've been attuned to a certain energy, we need to just attune it to a different energy, the one that we want to be in, or the one that's right for us, I should say. The one that's right for us. And that all has to do with alignment. That all has to do with not just the mindset work, but also the energy work at the same time. And for sometimes it feels like it's so much, and it's such a big thing. But if you've already done quite a bit of work, it feels like it's just that one tiny thing, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know what I'm missing. And I feel like that's what's hidden. And sometimes what's hidden is collective. Sometimes it's karmic. Sometimes it's, past lives. Sometimes it's something else that we haven't yet looked at.
I feel that, when I've spoken to women and they've sort of asked the question, well, how do I, I suppose, get into an energy where I feel more my authentic self and feel more feminine, and that I'm living as the real me? I've sort of said, well, that's different for every woman, isn't it? For some women to feel feminine, they need the makeup, they need the hair done, they need the nails done, they need the high heels. But for me, I don't need any of that stuff to feel feminine. I'm totally different to that. For me to feel feminine, I just like to wear sort of gypsy, hippie clothes, a flower in my hair. I don't wear makeup. I don't wear, nail polish or anything like that. But so it's different for us all as individuals, isn't it, as to how we can sort of tap into what feels authentically true for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that externally it doesn't matter, but internally is what matters. How do I feel internally? Do I feel in tune? Am I drawing my energy from where I want to be drawing the energy from? Is my heart giving my energy to all the areas I want to be giving it to? Do I feel this? Do I feel sort of grounded? And at the same time, do I feel like I'm in tune and in touch with everything around me? Do I feel in the flow? That's the questions you need to ask yourself. It's not necessarily anything external.
That's very true. And the key word that you said there was feel, because the feminine is about the feeling and the being, whereas the masculine is about the doing and the action, isn't it?
Absolutely. And who you're being is more important than what you're doing, right? because that's how we manifest things, is being, not doing. So, I think that it's just really important to be who you are. And when you be who you are, you radiate that out and you attract in what you want to attract in, no matter what it is. And you become more open to that rather than closed off. And you want to be able to attract in the things that you know that are right for you. And we attract what we are. So we want to attract all those things that feel right for us internally and by being who we are authentically.
Absolutely. And I think it's quite significant that you've mentioned that we need to be who we are internally, because quite often we're looking externally for validation when really it's an inside job, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think looking externally for validation is going to be a never-ending chase, a never-ending, am I okay? Am I doing the right thing? And I know I've been there. And I feel like I was always looking for something, and it was never going to be enough. And it was only ever enough when I found my own worth inside of myself.
100% agree with that. And I feel that actually the journey of self, and the life that we're given is a journey of being able to look in the mirror, isn't it? About and see and know that we accept ourselves for who we are and what we are, and that self-love and self-worth is the life lesson, I feel, that we're all meant to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's different lessons underneath that, but I think for the most part, that's the overarching lesson in life, is to accept yourself and know who you are, and that you're doing what you can and you're doing the best that you can, and you are who you are authentically, and that it doesn't really matter what's on the outside or who's on the outside, as long as you are okay with who you are.
Yeah, and it's quite sad that you see, for the most part, when people are having difficulties with understanding themselves, whether they're in a relationship or not, how much they actually are lacking, even if they're confident in the workplace. Underneath it all, they don't have that self-love and feel worthy and know that they're enough, do they?
No, absolutely. And I also think, well, at least for me, and tell my part of the story, is that I felt like there was an emptiness and there was something else and there was something more. And it had to do with me not feeling like enough, or too much at times, but mostly not enough. And I think whether I was working really hard and trying to prove myself, or I was throwing up my arms and saying, never mind, I'm not even gonna try anymore. It didn't matter, because it was the same, it was coming from the same place. And it's hard for me now to remember back what that was like, because I'm totally a different person now. I'm not, I feel complete within myself. And that was all because I did this work. And it all had to do with, and it came down to my energy. And that was it. I thought that it had to be so much more. I thought that it had to be years of therapy and years of doing of whatever work it was that I needed to do, different kinds of therapy, whatever it was. I didn't know. I really didn't know. And I tried different modalities, and I tried working with different types of people, relationship coaches and spiritual healers and all these different types of people. And I always felt like, how am I going to get there? Until I realized that it really just had to do with me working on the energy part of it, and nothing else really was the same afterwards.
I think expanding on the energy part of it, it's important as well to recognize the difference as to whether you're coming from a place of fear, lack, worry, or doubt, or whether you're coming from a place of love, abundance, faith, and trust as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're in this place of fear, lack, doubt, and that keeps going around and around, and it's the same cycle around and around and over, it's hard to imagine what it's like over on the other side, and there's a big gap between where you are now and where you want to be, and maybe you don't know what that is. And it's hard to imagine what life would be like over there. And even if it's not about necessarily, abundance being money or anything like that, it's about the feeling, and it's about feeling whole so that you can move forward. It's not necessarily about specific things like money or anything external, or external validation, or getting there, And I think sometimes we think, well, maybe I just need to get this one thing and then I'll get what I want. And we can't, that's not how it works, basically.
No, it's not.
It's really all just internal, all of it.
Absolutely. And the thing is that you mentioned something again very important there, that it's not about getting what you want that makes you happy. It's about understanding you can be happy on the journey towards getting what you want, regardless.
Right, because happy's not a destination, right?
Yeah, exactly. And quite often you'll hear people say, "Oh, when I've lost, X amount of pounds, I'll be happy," or "When I've got this material thing, I'll be happy." But what they don't understand is that you can be happy without those things on the journey towards, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's better to be, because then once you get there, it's all the better. But it's just sort of like, well, if it was there or not, I'd be okay.
Yes.
I'm happy regardless.
And that is such an important distinction to note, I think, for people, is to realize they can be happy on the way to achieving a specific goal that they would love to have, and they don't have to put it on a person to make them happy. They can just know that they can make themselves happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Not putting it on a person, being okay by yourself, not saying I need this person to do something for me in order to feel a certain way. And I think that's one of the biggest blocks that a lot of us have, is that we feel, well, if I just had this person tell me X, Y, and Z, then maybe I'll be okay. Maybe I'll feel better. If they acted this way or did this certain thing, then I would feel better. When it's really about you and the way that you, and your ability to change, and your ability to be in a different energy that changes everything outside of you.
Well, that's really, really been a fantastic conversation, Adriane. How can people get in touch with you if they would like to connect with you?
I can find me on Instagram at Adriane, ADRIANE.Jude, JUDE.
Excellent. And I really value you sharing your own personal insights, as well as, explaining what's happened in relationships that you've worked on with your either clients or people that you know. So any more pearls of wisdom before we close the episode around why are my hidden relationships blocks stopping me from getting what I want?
I guess the biggest thing for people to note is you can always find it. You can always look inside yourself. You can always pinpoint where your emotions aren't in alignment with what you truly want.
And on that note, I'll say thank you very much again. It's been fascinating talking to you.
Thank you so much.
So it just leaves me to say, true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.